Hello, lovely ones. We are here for another conversation of the 7 A's of transformation. So, this is month two. Last month, we talked a lot about awareness, cultivating the self-awareness, noticing patterns that aren't working, and just kind of like seeing ourselves in the pattern. Remember that it was this beautifully explorative space where there really weren't any answers. We're just practicing the noticing of it. So now we're coming into the second A, which is acceptance. And I want to break it down for you because whenever I'm working with clients, this is generally where people start getting really confused and start, oh, making it harder than it needs to be. And so I like to be just really clear right here so that you have a really clear vision on what we're doing here. Okay. So acceptance doesn't mean you have to like what's happening. We're moving into simply accepting that it's happening. Now, I want to say before we get into it, this doesn't mean that if you're in a situation where you're being harmed or your boundaries are being broken, that it means for you to just take it. This is not allowance. This is not, well, I guess I'm going to go ahead and have to just accept that this is happening. No, if you're actively being harmed, please move yourself away from whatever is harming you. Okay? So that is what acceptance is not. It's not allowance. It's not the surrender to the situation for the sake of the exercise. No, that is not what we're talking about here. So please give yourself permission to walk away, move away, step out of the conversation, step out of that situation that's happening that's harming you. Always, always boundaries are first. Okay. Okay. So let me break it down for you. There are two ways this acceptance game goes, two spaces in our world where it can really have an impact. I want to spend just a little bit of time on the first one, which is you in relationship with other people. So you and another person or other people. Okay, so here. So acceptance in that way is working towards a place where you can accept people for who they are rather than being in the fight of wishing they were something else. That's the acceptance when it comes to other people. Because a lot of the times we get really invested in the language within our head. Well, if only they would get it. If only they would understand. If only they would love me back. If only, if only, if only. And so, what happens whenever we do the if only game, I call it the hook of hope. Okay. The hook of hope means if I love them enough, maybe they'll get it. If I show up for them every time they need somebody to show up for them, maybe they'll show up for me. I hope they get it one day. So I'm going to keep showing up in a way that is harming me, but I don't want to pay attention to that in the hopes that one of these days they'll get it. A really good example for me is whenever I think about my mom, the relationship I had with my mom. I kept hoping one day she would come to me and have a conversation about forgiveness and the accountability that it takes to heal a relationship. I thought if I was the bigger person and I kept holding space in our conversations and showing up and having patience and just really stretching myself so thin that I broke, I was hoping she would get it one day. And the thing is she never did, not to the degree that I really needed it. She may have gotten it on the level that she got it, but she never got it on the level that I needed it, that my inner child needed it. Right. And so what happens when we get into those, it feels like a little bit of a tug of war in the relationship. Like we know it's not healthy, so we want to pull away, but then we go, oh, but if only I can just show up this next time, maybe they'll understand. And if I just love them enough. And so we get into this like weird push-pull kind of energy. And in the body, it feels like angst. It feels like, like we're kind of gaslighting ourselves out of our own boundaries, hoping that they'll get it. And I think, truthfully, the most peaceful thing we can do for ourselves in that moment, the most enlightened, true, authentic thing that we can do for ourselves is to simply accept them as they are without the, yeah, but I wish, and maybe if, and if only, and all of that angst. So when you're talking about the acceptance conversation, when it is in regards to other people, it's, can you accept that person for who they are? Can you accept them that that's who they are without hoping they're going to be better, without having that push pull of, this really hurts and it's toxic, but I can't let go because then what if that's the one time that really transforms them? That's the moment that acceptance needs to come in with that relationship. Can you accept them for who they are in this moment? Yes, of course. There's always a space for where we can hope they get it. But in this way, when it's this push-pull, it's the hope ends up being almost obligatory. Like it feels like an obligation, like it feels like a struggle. It's attachment. It's attachment to the outcome of them being better because we want them better, but not accepting that that's who they are right now and they may not ever be better. They may not ever get it. They may not ever love you the way you need to be loved. Can you accept that? And the same vein of that conversation also reflects around situations like events that happened in the past. Sometimes we get into this kind of internal dialogue of, why did I do that? Why didn't they do better? Why didn't this go better? Why did I make that decision? Like kind of reviewing our past experiences. It's the same concept. Can you accept that that's what it was? Can you accept it wasn't going to be anything different because that's what it was? That's what happened. That's also the same angst, right? And that in that conversation, it ends up being more of a regret is the angst, the, oh, if only I'd made a different decision, if only I would have known more, if only, if only, if only, if only. It ends up being the same fight in the body. And so when you're reviewing past situations, whether it was you alone in your decision making or it involved other people, it's the same concept. Why couldn't it be any different? Because it wasn't. Why didn't I do something different? Because you didn't. Why couldn't they have gotten it? Because they couldn't have. And so every time we do the why, it takes us out of our system. It starts to we start to self-abandon in that moment. We're going into the past and we're like, oh, if only I could change things. We can't. The only thing that's left to do is accept that that's what happened. I don't mean you have to like it. I don't mean that it was okay what happened to you. It's not a space of kind of the blind forgiveness that our spiritual communities kind of speak about. It isn't blind forgiveness. It isn't a blanket permission that everything is okay and in order. And this isn't toxic positivity here. It's definitely a situation where it's yes and, okay? Yes, that happened. Yes, your feelings are valid. Yes, there was harm, whether at your hand or their hands. Yes, that is true. And you have the right to feel however you're going to feel about that. And can you accept it for what it is? See, it's the acceptance that drops the fight. It drops the fight in your body. So the other side of that conversation, this is involving people and events. typically involving people. A lot of conflict over here, right? The other side of that conversation is for yourself, when it's you alone in that moment, when it's something that you did or something that you made a mistake around, or you totally just screwed yourself when you did the thing you did, right? It's the same thing. When you find yourself being in that conversation of, oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. Why did I do that? If only I would have just done something different. How much time have you spent tormenting yourself on the shoulda, coulda, wouldas? How much time do we actually spend? I would be really afraid to know that number, because we do spend a lot of time. And this is the kind of the point where I like to say regret can be a really beautiful teacher. Regret has a way of teaching us corrective behavior. I don't like how that went. Man, I really, really am disappointed in myself. I don't like that I behaved that way. I can see how I did that. I don't want to do that anymore. Moving forward, I'm going to do this instead. So, regret unto itself in its purest form is actually a really potent teacher. But what we tend to do is we take regret and we add a huge dollop of punishment and shame and guilt. And so we perpetually punish ourselves for years over something that happened that maybe it was a situation where we just didn't understand what we were doing. So we allow our present self to punish our past self, because obviously we know better now. We didn't know better then. And so regret in its purest form can be really beautiful. It can course correct and help guide our path moving forward to cultivate who we want to be in the world. Now that we have more information about who we don't want to be, we get to step forward and be who we want to be. But part of that is having the boundaries around that masochistic side of us that wants to really punish ourselves needlessly. That's not necessary. It doesn't actually course correct. All that does is it locks us into a shame spiral where it degrades our self-worth. It deactivates our trust in ourselves, shutting down our systems. It shuts down our intuition. It shuts down our flow. It shuts down our ability to connect. So the shame spiral is not a nutritional space at all. It's actually a decaying space where it will degrade all of the innate abilities that we have. It's terribly corrosive. It eats away at everything that we are. So let me just pause right there and take a breath. So everyone just take a breath. So whether you're doing this with other people or past situations with other people, or you're doing it with yourself in past situations with yourself, how you know you're in it is when you're doing the arguing. Oh man, I wish I would have, and if only I could have, and why didn't I do that, and why did this, blah, blah, blah. Whenever you're in the argument of it, you like pause and just kind of feel what's going on in the body. There's angst in the body. So we've been playing with capacity. Go into your capacity, just kind of go into your internal system, your own body, and feel the fight that's going on in there because you don't like what happened and you wish it would have been different. That's it. That's the fight. That's you fighting to not accept what is, what was. Okay. So when you notice that, just pause and breathe and come back into yourself and address the angst. We're not trying to get rid of it because we know the fight is the fight. The fight is fighting for its life to understand. So it's not about fighting it or pushing it away or being positive and thinking of something else. Like, let's address it. Let's directly in the face of it answer it. Oh man, why didn't they do that? Because they didn't. Ah, if only I would have done this, but I didn't. Why did I say that? I cannot believe I said that because I said it. The why always takes us away, and the because that's what I did, because that's what I said, because that's what happened brings us back to present moment. Because. Why? Because, right? I call that an infinity loop because it takes us out, but it brings us back to the center. Why did I do that? Because that's what I did. Why did they say that? Because that's what they said. I'm not saying that's easy. As with all things, it's a habit, it's a practice, it's a rewiring of something that's been there probably for most of your life. And so, with anything, it's not a quick fix, it's an easy fix because the ease is noticing in your awareness. That's why it's the first month of awareness, noticing in your awareness when you go away in that fight, when you fight in there, and then bringing it back to because that's not what I said, because that's not what I did, because, right? Come back to the truth, come back to your truth. Why did I say that? Because that's what I said. Why didn't I do something different? Because I didn't. No matter what you say, the answer is in that simplicity. Why did that happen? Because that's what happened. Why did they do that? Because that's what they did. It brings it back to the present moment and it helps you drop the fight of wishing it were different. I know we want it to be different, but living in the angst of what it wasn't, what it coulda, woulda, shoulda been, is actually perpetuating more of that shame. I want to say one thing, just because it came up on the call the other night around the hook of hope. There was a question in the group that was just brilliantly asked about, but I do hope, I do have hope. And so to hear me talk about the hook of hope it sounds negative. I want to say my version of the hook of hope is speaking from the shadow of hope. The shadow is the attachment of, I hope they get it and I'm going to keep feeding them even though it's killing me. That's the hook of hope. That's shadow hope. There is a virtue hope. There is a space in there to talk about how I really do hope that my mom gets it one of these days. You know, she's in the spirit realm now. Maybe her next life. I do hope that she gets it, but I don't have an attachment to it. I'm not investing in her getting it in an unhealthy way. I'm not investing that energy in the hopes that one day she gets it so that I feel seen and heard. I simply hope she gets it. And if our paths ever cross, then I would hope that she would get it in such a way that I would feel seen and heard in that moment. But I don't have an attachment to it. And that's the difference. One is virtue and one is shadow. And it's so important to know which one you're playing with. Shadow always has attachment, it's always unhealthy. Somebody is getting hurt in that exchange. Generally, you in that moment, because you're hoping and hoping and hoping. And they're like, this is all I've got. I can't give you any more. So, how that might feel in real time. Remember, going back to the angst, going back to the fight in the body, it literally feels like there is a fight going in my body. I feel the tug of war kind of pushing and right? So I would pause and I would go, okay, what am I attached to? Right? Where can I accept this person for who they are? I want them to get it, but can I accept that there's a possibility they won't? Can I accept them for who they are? And you sit with that question or the situation or your own past, experience. You sit with the question, can I accept this? Am I capable of accepting this or them for who it is or who they are in this moment? You sit in that and you literally begin to feel the fight dying out because the acceptance is releasing that fight. It's releasing your judgment that it should be different. Right? Does that make sense? The fight is simply your judgment that it should have been different. Why wasn't it different? If only it could be different. But it isn't. It's what it is. And we're not bypassing, we're alchemizing that fear, the shame, the judgment, whatever is going on in the situation. You're alchemizing it. You're transmuting it. You're transmuting it from the fight and the attachment and the judgment into acceptance and peace and flow. Freeing the other person from your judgment, which sometimes has the ability to give them space to get it. How's that for irony? You are fighting in it is actually holding them in the perpetual behavior. And I've seen sometimes when we pull back and we give that person freedom and we accept them for who they are in that moment and nothing more, it actually gives them space to get it. This is energetic responsibility for you and anyone that you're involved in this fight with. It's energetic responsibility. You are being responsible with your energy and accepting them for who they are. Isn't that all we ever want from people? Don't we want to be accepted for who we are? Yeah. So it's a really powerful game. I really invite you to play with this. And as with all the things that we do together, and we're spending a month on this conversation, just simply carry it with you. Just notice when you're in that fight, and can you breathe and come back to self and stay curious and accept for whatever it is, always moving away if you're being harmed. If it's a boundary infraction, that's a different game. That's a different game. But if it's in your own head and it's in your own body, yeah, that's yours. That's yours. So have fun with it. I would love to hear more about how that experience is going for you throughout the month. Drop some, comments in the community space. And this month will prepare us for next month. So I'm really excited to do more with you. So have fun. Reach out with any questions. Let's have some support for each other. And yeah, let's move into some acceptance and see just how much freedom that creates in our lives. I think you'll be really surprised how beautifully peaceful it is. Yeah, I'll see ya.